Mark,
Jesus. Hey,
you
Paul.
know, you'd think you'd be used to this by now.
No, every time I go backstage for the intro, I get like squirrel brain, and I was just admiring this beautiful blacklight cover by Ivan Reese for this most recent issue of Night Terrors.
Those are all pretty.
They are.
Um,
They're hypnotic.
exactly. Um, so we got this is actually week number 8 of Night Terrors.
It's
We
gone by
have
fast.
this is the what I think they would call the penultimate week. Basically, have 6 issues. We have the Night Terrors number 4, so the final issue of the Night Terrors proper, and then we have 5, count them 5 of the tie-in uh, issues as well.
I
So
counted them.
um,
It was five.
yeah, there you go. Good. We'll, we'll we'll talk about all of those right after we do this. So, welcome to another edition of DC Comics Deep Dive. We are talking about Night Terrors as we have been for the last 8 weeks. Before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you're alerted whenever we upload new content. Make sure you may leave a comment because we will be giving away a entire collection of the Night Terror saga on our special live edition of DC Comics Deep Dive on Wednesday, September 6th at 9 o'clock. And make sure you leave a comment and like. Don't forget to like it as well to battle those YouTube algorithm gods. So,
They're tough.
uh,
They're tough.
exactly. So, as I said, this is the end of the Night Terrors proper series. We've got Night Terrors number 4 um, coming up this week or this past week. Um, really, yeah, it's a great Ivan Rice cover. Um, and it really kind of sets up everything going into the Night Terror's Night's End. But we get a more definitive origin of who Insomnia is. But it starts off like all the previous 3. We see Deadman in a setting where he's just kind of setting up the issue. We've had him as a newscaster. We've had him now we have him as kind of a
The
almost like a
studious, yeah, the studious
exactly.
playboy by the fire.
Exactly. Reading, not surprisingly, Strange Adventures 205, which is his origin issue,
Yeah,
and he has a very interesting thing in there where he says that in horror stories there are no victors, only survivors.
survivors.
Then we jump back to where we were at the end of the last issue again. We basically have they have found the Nightmare Stone. They found it in the Hollow, and it is basically Sandman Wesley Dodds, it's Damian Wayne, and it's Batman who was possessed by Deadman. Basically, are going through, and so they end up at Arkham Tower, um, which is where Insomnia. They say Insomnia is actually still inside Arkham Tower. He is happens to be asleep, and
And
so
I
they
thought that was a
decided.
cool touch that his actual body is still right where it all started when the Lazarus rain leaked onto him and set him off. Thought that
Right,
was really interesting. I like that.
yeah. And so they immediately decide that they need to go find him inside Arkham Tower, and right off the bat, we basically get Insomnia playing games with them because he, as Batman and Damian are basically walking through, trying to get up to the floor that he's on. Batman suddenly starts telling Damian how he's proud of him and everything, and that's basically when Damian knows, okay, he's not awake right now
Who
still.
are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so he basically has fallen asleep, and he has Wesley Dodds wakes him up, and then we see Deadman going towards the room where Insomnia is, and I thought it was kind of interesting because I had forgotten about this, but as soon as I saw her, I remembered that they dated for a while, and that was Dove. He sees Dove. basically on his way in. So that's one of the things that Deadman sees. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I had forgotten about that until I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's a nice little touch.
Yep. None
Uh,
of it worked though. He just kept pushing through. Kept
right,
pushing through.
right, and then we basically move into we get really kind of the whole origin of insomnia at this point. Who basically it's a story that's not unfamiliar
It's Hank
with
Henshaw's story.
yeah, exactly. It's the Justice League was too busy, although it is kind of a direct shot almost at the death metal stuff. Basically, Insomnia says that they're too busy battling different Batmans to save everybody, and so it
I thought that
basically
was
is
cool for them to do that because it time stamped it.
right. Right. And so it basically his origin is that he trusted the Justice League to be able to save him and his family. And when it came down to it, they were off battling, the Batman Who Laughs or whoever it happened to be. And so his family was killed. And
They were
so
collateral damage. They were in their apartment living their life, and this battle's getting close, and the wife's wanting to leave, and he's like, "No, they'll be fine. They'll keep us safe. They'll protect us." And my mind immediately thought, like, that's like that Hank Henshaw mentality. Superman will save me, and they just stay there till the building becomes rubble, and his wife and kids are casualties of the event.
right. And so we have Deadman and Insomnia finally face to face, battling each other. And
With the
uh,
Nightmare Stone.
Correct, with the Nightmare Stone. And Insomnia says that you have to remember that if you die in the nightmares, you die in real life too. And so he kind of slits his own throat. And so he dies in the real world as well. We flash back to the professor like dead man by the fire, who just reminds everybody that again, horror stories don't have happy endings, just survivors. Um, and so we end up we actually then flash back to the end of I want to say was it I don't remember which one it was, but now we have Damien with Wesley Dodd's gun, which we have seen in the past. We saw that at the close of I want to say it was the Batman, the Night Terror's Batman.
Yeah, the first
Um,
issue.
Correct. And so that we have basically all of these terrors now from all the different nightmares are being loosed upon the waking world, um, and including the three. The Superman, the Wonder Woman, and the Batman, the kind of like the Batman that has the gun for the head, the Wonder Woman that she that although is proposes peace, does it by waging war to bring peace, and the really kind of demonic type Superman. So those are the three. It's interesting that the three nightmares for the three Trinity are kind of twisted versions of themselves, while everybody else kind of has something. It's not twisted versions of themselves, it's situations or how they feel about themselves that actually are their
Mhm.
nightmare. So they are all back at the Hall of Justice, and we see those three, the twisted trinity, that is now loose in the world, and it says that it's to be continued in Night's End, which is the finale that will be coming out tomorrow as you watch this on Monday.
Yeah, this was a solid issue. It was fast paced. It was a great information dump, but they've spread it out through the series where it wasn't just like it felt like, oh crap, we're running out of time. Put it all in there. It was spaced out well and built up well with insomnia stuff. And I think that it was awesome how it was like a whole turn. Like they thought if we get to Insomnia's body and we bring the Nightmare Stone, we can end this. But it was all a ruse by Insomnia to get that last push from the Nightmare Stone to bring this realm to reality, to unleash the Nightmare World unreality. It was a cool little villainous plot.
Yeah, it really was. And so now we'll get the final issue. Like I said, next issue is also the art's going to be by Howard Porter again, who did a phenomenal job on the first issue. The something beyond. I can't even think of what it was before now.
First Blood.
But First Blood, yes, I'm sorry, First Blood. Um, so he's doing the two bookend issues. So, um, but we did finish up five more miniseries, kind of
Mm.
tie-ins. I'm gonna go with this one first.
And it wasn't the best week for him at all.
No, it definitely wasn't. So, yeah, definitely the Jang cover, absolutely. Um, Still say they missed it. They should have had John doing variant covers the entire
Yeah,
thing.
he should have been on B covers for all of it.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
Action Comics was solid. It was a two-part story. We focused on Power Girl in the first half, and it picked up right where we left off with her running through numerous different nightmare scenarios. And as she wakes up, it looks like she's almost hooked into a machine, feeding her into this sleep paralysis. And she eventually overcomes it, meets up with her homegirl Omen, and gets about their day. Pretty straightforward.
really was. Yeah, and then we get a little preview of because Power Girl's getting her own. I don't know if it's an ongoing series or not, but
It
we
looked
get
like it from what it
a
said.
two page preview. Not a lot happens other than this guy who is speaking of Hank Henshaw. Seems like he's kind of like a Hank Henshaw type
Yeah,
guy.
he's got some kind of tech that comes up onto his face as to be
Right.
continuing Power Girl.
Right. So we'll see that. And then we get the backup, which speaking of Hank Henshaw,
Was
um,
fire.
was
I
yeah,
love this one. This was
yeah,
like I felt like the main body of the story. I don't know why they put Power Girl first. I guess to get people to read it, but this was awesome. This is like the super family that we've been seeing in Action Comics. Uh, you got Superman of China, you got Connor Kent, you got the twins, and they're all dealing with a nightmarish Hank Henshaw coming out of the TV and pretty much assimilating them into himself and tracking them down one at a time. And it just escalates. So you have like the twins fighting with him and everything to a point of them kind of dawning on them, that intellect that a lot of these super characters have that gets looked over a lot. They kind of realize like, this is your nightmare. This isn't our nightmare. This is your nightmare. And it actually turns on Hank Henshaw, and you start seeing some of his failures and stuff. And in that moment of weakness, these characters that he's assimilated are able to get out of him and are able to defeat him and get back home and lick their wounds and have woken up from the nightmare because, of course, they were all collectively in this situation together. And now they're ready for the big fight as well.
right. Written by the backup story written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, art by Miko Suyan. So really clean,
Yeah, solid.
pristine art.
That's a good.
Um,
That's a good creative team right there.
yeah, exactly. Um, then we have Detective Comics.
Best one of the week.
Yeah, which again, speaking from art, I would say that this probably has the best interior art of any of them, and just a fire cover as well from Riccardo Federici. Um,
So yeah,
and
this should be like collected, reprinted in like a square bound, and just slapped with a Elseworld thing. Because though this is inside of the Night Terrors imprint and everything, and sure it fits in there, this is just such an in depth, well rounded, plotted out story on its own that it needs just to be published and pushed. This is probably the best two issues that Night Terror had to offer for me. I think like this was wicked. It felt like I was watching a Hellraiser movie.
yeah, and it's funny too because again, it's like you have it basically focuses on Jim Gordon and Barbara Gordon. Those are the two that are basically the focus of this, and their relationship to each other, to Gotham City for the most part as well, because it talks about Gotham City a lot, and how basically their nightmare is that basically you know what they're
Bruce and
doing
Jim get old.
exactly. And that they're afraid that what they're doing, is going to somehow break Gotham City as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have Jim Gordon, who's his nightmare is that he's basically turned to glass, basically. Um, and so, he's
Agile
afraid that,
fight. Yeah.
yeah. So if he touches anything, he's afraid he's going to break himself or he's going to hurt, whatever it happens to be.
And
It references,
it wasn't even his nightmare. He was affected by Barbara's decision, and her
right,
fear is that her dad is getting too old. He can't keep fighting this fight for Gotham. Batman's getting too old. No one else is noticing it, but those of us who watch him on a daily basis see that he's slowing down, and she's afraid that like the city will not be properly protected once they're gone. And it was
Right.
really cool the way that they packaged this story. You have Barbara pretty much in secret, and that was a reveal that it was Barbara, but her in secret recruited these two other people to go raise these ancient deities to that would grant them these wishes, which she knew that they would come at a cost, but she was willing to pay that cost. And that what you get is this nightmarish Batman going around the city slaughtering the guilty. What you get is Barbara being too fragile to help, but she set this into motion. What you get from the other person who asked for the money to be able to do this, the riches, who's just throwing up diamonds that are cutting her inside to the point of death. And now you have Jim Gordon having to stop this nightmarish Batman because he wasn't in on this at all. It was horrific. It was one of the most gothic Batman stories I've seen written. Like he said, the art was fantastic. It was just killer. It was wicked, and they wrapped it all around the MacGuffin, just like in Hellraiser. You have the cube, and this you have this ancient clock. And if you have this ancient clock, this is what you can use to tap into the power of these old gods. And they made it like this clock is just part of the nightmare. But when we come out of the nightmare, the clock has put itself, this mystical clock has shown up in a clock store, which even the attendant of the store is like, I've never seen this before. Where'd this come from? So it's out. It's in the real world. This is something that can be revisited. So hopefully it's something that Ron B picks up and carries on in later issues of Detective before he's gone.
Right, because we have this mysterious man who, and the very last panel, basically decides, is looking for it and buys it and basically says, name your price. So he knows how powerful it is. And it's interesting because it also says that it's from the fifth dimension. It has fifth
Mhm.
dimension and, characteristics as well, which we all
Yeah, and
know
a big
is
shout out to Dan Waters.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
And what would the
Um,
fifth dimension?
that's Mr. Mixophilip is the fifth dimension.
Mhm. So yeah, Dan Waters wrote this, and he's the same guy who did that Arkham World series. It was just
Mhm.
he's just a really good horror writer. He just makes you forget that you're reading like a, a capes and flight style universe book. You're just transported into a darker, unfamiliar world. It was good.
Mhm. Okay. Um, so those are all of our good ones. Titans. I actually did like Titans. I like Titans, and I think we had a difference. I like Titans last issue too, so not more
Then
than
I'll let you
you.
take this one, Paul.
Okay. Basically, the we find that it is that the tower itself that is controlling the nightmares of the Titans, and the reason why it's able to do this is because of the tortured souls that the Titans Tower is built on. Because if you recall, Titans Tower was built on the former Bloodhaven prison. And so it is basically all of the inmates, the previous inmates from the Titans prison, sorry, from the Bloodhaven prison, that are now coming back to haunt um, uh, all of the Titans as well. So it's very quick.
And
I
they're
Raven,
appearing like monstrous versions of themselves, so you get some cool Titans versus Titans fighting in there. But all in all, it just felt like a dud for me.
mm,
This is
uh,
one of the books that make me think, why did you interrupt Dawn of DC for this?
yes, but we also, I mean, this is a totally different thing, and maybe we'll get to this down the road. But they just announced all the Beast World stuff that's coming up in DC, so I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to that. And Ivan Rice is going to be doing the interiors for that with Tom
Yeah,
Taylor, so
I'm
looking
all in
forward to
for
that.
that.
Okay, um, Angel Breaker, Angel Breaker. Um,
Trash,
yeah,
absolutely trash.
yeah, these last two came out too. Um, yeah, you know what? I read Angel Breaker twice, and do you ever read comics and you're just so not interested in it that like halfway through it you can't remember exactly what the last four pages were that you read?
Yeah. So she's dealing with like like it's all just characters and settings based on that Deathstroke Inc. story. So there's no investment in any of this stuff because it's been like a year since any of it was even relevant. But her and her little merry band are in this base and they're dealing with this like ancient Japanese like nursery rhyme villain that's in there stalking them and they beat her and it's over and who cares.
And there you have it. And then the last one is Harley Quinn.
This one kind of bummed me out compared to the first one.
Hmm. Yeah. um, this one has basically Harley basically becoming like a super girl or super woman esque person here in this
Yeah, she's
issue.
wrestling with her biggest fear of being dependent on him, is what it looks like. Being looked at as someone who should be good enough to be a part of the Justice League, and then and her bouncing around through her nightmares, she's bouncing around through the multiverse. It was very meta in the first one, almost like that her crazy had her immune to the effects of this, and that she was somehow outside of it. And to a big degree, she is in certain ways. But we spend a lot of time just with her in this nightmare where it's all like dandelions and roses, all golden age feeling, and she's like a Superman character dealing with some of Superman's villains and going through the mundaneness of living the life of Superman or a Superman character. And then we kind of get out of it and it gets a little meta and it teases something that nothing else has. This is really said to be continued in a very unique and specific place, which I'm very interested to see where it goes. But I'll probably not read it. But I'll still watch to see where it goes. It says to be continued in Crisis or something.
Yeah, but I actually took that to mean as though um, that's
Everything else
basically
said Nights In.
yeah, but I'm thinking it's going to be continued in her issue, which is in her issues or her regular series.
Makes sense. Who was the character that was she was talking to? That's like the extra dimensional character, that, like viewing all of this.
I'll be damned if I know.
That energy suit, short haired lady. I already forget.
Oh, yeah, she was from Crisis on Infinite Earths. Is that Lady Quark?
Quark. Yeah. And to be continued in Crisis. So Harley's about to have her own little crisis event going on. Not event in the sense like what we're talking about here, but
Right. Well, and the other thing too is she has, and I don't know if it's done or not, but she has her series. You know, uh, Harley destroys the multiverse, or
oh yeah,
Harley
yeah,
versus the
yeah.
multiverse, right? So maybe that's what's going to be continued instead. So
Yeah. But the first one was fantastic. This one was just kind of I don't know. It's like they fired all their shots for the first issue and had to figure out what to do with this one, so they just drug out that and like we all know it's for nothing. Like we're so far into this that we know these little nightmares aren't really amounting to nothing. So it's just really like what about what's happening in them or moving on to the next little piece and just to spend the majority of the book in there like why are we doing this? Let's get to the turn, the reveal, whatever, and it didn't happen till the end with Lady Quark there.
mhm, yep. Um, but yeah, that's we basically we're down to one comic now, and that is Night Terror's Night's End, um, which is coming out this Wednesday. We will be taking a look at that comic as well as the entire Night Terror saga on Wednesday, September 6th at 9 o'clock. Join us if you can, because and make sure you leave a comment on one of the videos that's out there, because what's going to happen is we will be selecting one video out of all of our videos, and we're up to that'll be like this is video number 8 for Night's Terror, so there's 8 different videos. Um, Leave a comment. We'll be selecting a video, and then we will be picking a comment from that video for someone to win the entire Night's Terror saga. But then also join us live, because to someone in the live chat, we will be giving away the Night Terrors proper as well as the 2 bookends. And we will also be giving away this is Justice League of America number 154. In an 8.5, this is an early appearance of Dr. Destiny in the Justice League series. The cover by William Michael Kaluta, or Michael William Kaluta, sorry, who was a famous horror artist, still is, but did a lot in the 70s and 80s. Probably most known for doing The Shadow with Denny O'Neil back in the 70s. So,
It's a
um,
fantastic
and,
giveaway.
and if you want to join us on the panel, just let us know. Contact Mark or myself. We want to, besides having, conversation with the chat, we want to also get people who want to come on and talk about Night Terror. Was it worth it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What part did you like? What part did you not like? You know, and where do you hope it goes from here? Because they're setting up some things that we assume are going to be shown in the Night Terror's Night's End that they've kind of hinted at before, and hopefully um, it'll come to fruition. I'm looking at you, Helmet of Hate. Um,
Yeah, that's confirmed for Nights In.
yeah,
Doctor Hate is appearing.
right. So, But that's going to be it for this particular episode of DC Comics Deep Dive. Again, subscribe, like, comment, hit the notification bell, all those good things before you leave. But that's it. I am Paul. He is Mark.
But we are Legion.
And you are now leaving Sector 2815. Woohoo!